nice healthy balance is going to be between 80% listings and 20%. If you build your business with buyers, certainly continue that, but try to be a little bit higher in percentage for listings. It's just going to make your life a lot easier. You're going to be able to do deals because think of listing as getting paid twice, or the opportunity to get paid twice, because there's an opportunity to have. I may be ignorant. So Delaware is that?
Maryland.
Not. It's referred to
Hey, Dolly.
still can tell something.
Well,
The key is to run a business by design, not just by kind of like fumbling each day out of it. It's maybe a big statement, but doing things by design helps you control your time, helps you control your efforts, and you just can count on better margins essentially. So consistency is the key. So it doesn't matter whatever I say today, because if you're not going to be consistent with what you do, you're going to put it. That's not fun. Who's been in this business 2 years or more? 3 years or more? 5? So I always tell people it takes 3 years to gear up to become profitable, and then year 5 is really starting to that jump off point of maybe more referrals are coming in. Once you start to feel like the referrals are rolling in, that means you're planting enough seeds, and now you can figure out how to double down on what you're doing to amplify. So 3 to 5 years legitimately build a profitable business. If you make money, but I'm saying like feel good, you have a career, and not hanging out next month. It's like, okay.
We can talk about this. This is
Yeah. So community managers freak out if
It's like doing 3D drawings.
100% of them. Now it's
I'm like, I don't know, doing
Yes.
This is one of my
Max,
favorite.
I'll let you, but I
Probably like 3:30.
Drives me. I had this presentation built last month, and my wife was the CEO.
I'll be back by that time.
I'll be
And
here.
I'll try to call Mr. Jones.
She's back in over.
Okay, Bruce.
All right, we'll see.
So I can do it. But it really drives back to consistency. So
Okay.
it's like going to the gym. So you go once, there's no result that you see, but you do the same thing repeatedly. You get the month. After that 6 to 8 months, you're like, wow, my appetite has changed. So this is going to be like basic raw stuff that I'm going to tell you, but the most boring things done consistently compound. Like just follow the process and stick with it. I don't like talking about myself, but I'll give you an idea of what I am, just so there's a little bit of legitimacy for you guys. So I started real estate back in 2009, exclusively in property management, leasing apartments, and I would get sun poisoning a few times a year simply just from being outside all day long, and I was eventually put in line to be the property manager for a 30 building portfolio in Center City, like a $25 million portfolio. But the brand dude popped up and he was like, "Oh, I'm actually taking over." And I went to my mentor, Steve Savitz, who was the owner of this company. And he was like, "I'm really sorry, this is like the majority owner that you." Like, I couldn't really be family. I wasn't upset, but it kind of hurt a little bit. But he's like, "Look, you're way better than rentals. You should just
Okay,
so yeah, you pick my goals."
I'll have to look for it. I'll see if I can find it.
And they broke back. Yeah, seriously. So 2015, I'm doing a team with Global
The
Banker.
day at 3?
I didn't really have any experience. They had a really great education system, kind of like build yourself up quickly as a realtor. So I really took to that, and it honestly helped.
Okay, no problem. I'll
I
get
tried
back
to
to
be a
you.
good listener. So obviously, when you first get into the business, you got troubles. Don't really know what you're doing. There's no industry, there's no contacts, there's no.
Okay, I'll try to find the number.
So learning
Okay.
your
I will,
markets,
I will.
Choosing 3 neighborhoods or 3 zip codes or 3 areas that you like. You're master that, like understanding what your square foot sold, you're understanding what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms go for. Just having a sense of like the deep knowledge of that market, understanding how to run comps, and understanding how to negotiate. If you have those fundamentals, it doesn't matter how long you're in the business. It's like sage advice that you can have on that. So 2015, I got my first listing, door knocking. And I pretty much did a lot of my business for the first few years. I don't know what that translates to in Delaware. I mean, you can go on there and see what you do. So door knocking is awesome because you get really face to face and belly to belly with people and start to see your face. So if you don't have dozens of signs around the table, it's hard.
Hey, Isaac, how you doing? My name's Connor Tuck. How are you today?
Your face gets you knocked before. That's like free everything.
So you're taking a look at this.
So I picked up a listing, but I had talked to the guy months prior, and I wrote the thing. So I was working. So basically, you take a folder, have a list like people that talk, with the addresses and their name, the home, right? It feels old school, but people love that touch. Like the only time you get fun ones is email. So when you get somebody that's handwritten thanking you for something, it touches them. So and I still do. I still get listings because of that, because it's like that extra step. So he also had to be ethics business teacher of Wharton. So the dude was all about your personal ethics and just like being a good person. So he's like, wow, that kind of touched me. So on New Year's Eve, I remember he called me up and he's like, hey, I'd like to start. It's awesome. I put on a contract the first 2 months. You know, I was at 0 sales. So this was huge. It was like a 480 sale price, which was good for me. And I had never signed a listing before. So I presented him as I was taught. So understanding the fundamentals of how to house, sales strategy, how you're going to position the property. He didn't question that because it didn't. Only conversation, people only push back about commissions or their ability is going to be that. So if you look without the conversation is like, oh, you're not qualified to make that stuff. So I put on a contract in the first 2 months, but they did a stuck inspection. 80% of people how to build for that. If you look by just bring it out like that's in over. And the next jump off point was getting a listing for my second listing. And this guy was like this group Russian guy. He was very random phone call from desk time and he said, hey, I want to check out the property across the street. Showed it to him, I'm interested. He was building something on that same block. And I was like, hey, I'd love to help you bring your spiel. Anti-real guy. No realtor, don't want realtor. Right? He got burned from moving sold it to him. So like, I'm gonna sell it by myself. So yeah, every 10 days for 8 months, it took me slow. I went to that property. Even in the dead of winter, still went to the property, still talked to him. So after he finished the property, so I was rich, right? Unfortunately, he was also talking to the realtor across the street that I showed the property to that had that listing. He said, hey, I'm also talking to this guy. So building a reputation is not only critical for the consumer, but also the right? I went to that agent and I was like, I'm not begging you, but I need your help. It's like, you already do a ton of business, you've already been in the business longer than I have. Would you be open to what you can? So he also would be super annoying as well, so that kind of helped. But he was kind of, he's like, yeah, go with it, run with it. So I jumped on the phone call with my office manager and pitched him. He said, I want the right to sell my property, right? Every deal I've ever done, I've always encountered a problem. But I've gotten to that problem since possible. And I would use that education. I want you guys to do this. You're always going to run into problems. This business is endless amount of process. You should embrace it because that's how you get better. So his roadblock was, I want the right to list it and advertise it. And if I find a buyer, I can do it. I said, okay, I can advertise it. There was a very awkward long pause. What do you mean? What do you mean? How are you going to advertise? How are you going to promote your property if you also have a list? Sign in the window, in the actual window, not it's perpendicular, so if you go by and a newspaper. Perfect. Accessible, right? It's got the no cost. And he did 2 weeks in, he said, okay, I'll take myself up and go sold the house. That was my first deal. It took 9 months. It was a painful 9 months. But all throughout that time, the first listing I signed, I also put in a contract with an agent. 20 grand. That was a life-changing experience at the time for me in terms of real estate there. So every negative thing that happens to you is really a positive depending on how you look at it. 2 months later, after I sold that one, the Russian dude, I get another random floor time. Hey, I'm an investor in the area. I'm going to a specific pocket. I just sold the property, the highest property on the block. I want to do another. Oh, I just sold one on that block. Same house. Different investor. It was the partner investor. Never talk to them. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, go find us something. Go under contract with them for a few weeks. They put me in touch with the actual money guy. And I was like, no, we're going to use somebody else. I'm chasing them for 2 months, right? They still said, no. This business is full of grit and you can't give up. I sent them comp report, absorption rates, everything, market shifts, this one under contract, that under contract. After 20 times of reaching out to this guy, he went to his money company and said, you know what? Never. Like, he's spunky, he's working how he wants it, so we'll give him a deal. That one deal turned into 12 months. So you just can't stop. You kind of got to be, you got to be respectful. You got to understand who you're speaking to, and the stuff how you're speaking to people. But the point I'm trying to say is that you just can't stop. So, this business is super easy because there's 4 fundamentals doing it, right? I like to keep the equation simple so we can leave room for complexity in the actual solution of the situation. So find a deal, talk your way into the deal, market, and negotiation. Those are the only things you guys have to do, right? You have to create your own opportunities by creating inventory. So go search, go find inventory that's not on the market yet and create inventory. That can come from delinquencies and taxes, people that own multiple portfolios, prospecting, networking. Like there's so many different ways you creatively do stuff for free. I'm a firm believer in bootstrapping your business the first 5 years and operating lean, so you're not drowning in debt. So you're not even on, right? I want you to live well and not have to struggle. So being lean in terms of the expenses that can occur, do things for free. Right? So there's ways you can find this for free. Once you have the deal, now's your opportunity to talk to the agents. You have to present yourself that you're the expert of whatever situation, right? Whether it's a construction site, whether it's an expired listing, whether it's a family friend, whether it's somebody that referred you because you know that you've spoken to them door knocking and they know somebody else. So like, now you have to understand what the specifics of the deal is to get yourself into it. That comes back to your fundamentals. Your market, how to run comps, how you have to deal with objections. Those 3 things are just like this interchangeable tug of war that you're always doing. Once you have the deal and you've talked your way to it, now you got to explain to people how you're going to market it, right? Social media is a big thing these days, and being able to leverage different platforms or specific platforms that you want to deal with, that's the way to do it. Again, door knocking is a huge one because when you do an open house, the open house isn't just to get new buyer clients, but it's actually to do these things. It's you knock on the doors on that block for the open house that you're doing.
Thank you.
Encourage the homeowners to come in
Absolutely.
after the open house that gives them the product tour. Because you always get like curious neighbors. You want to befriend those curious neighbors because statistically, 1 to 2 more houses will go in the market of a house being sold. So that's totally worth it for you to spend an extra time to have the conversation. And then the biggest fundamental building block is negotiation. Negotiation is a perishable skill. You don't use it to lose it, right? You'll be constantly flexible. I like Kate's because I'm constantly flexible. She's like living with a lawyer, always arguing with her about whatever, right? Not arguing, but just like count, right? I love customer service because I count it all the time. I'll let people try to sell me stuff and count it back, right? I'll get $10 off my next phone purchase because I'm just trying to push for it. So negotiation doesn't just live in our businesses, right? So you have to constantly flex that negotiation muscle to be good at negotiation. It's just consistency, right? Again, I'm going to come back to consistency. This business is not about selling properties, it's actually about building relationships, right? We invest in your relationship, invest your time in building a relationship. Because again, that 3 to 5 year span after we get connected with people, that's when like there's great TED talk of this tech investor who said you can help 1 billion people. So that same idea is how many people can actually how many people have the true, real emotional relationships with that will always have me at the top of my mind or have you at the top of my mind.
So see if there's a thing that
Value first, always pushing value, right? Whenever I'm trying to get a listing, I never ask for something until I'm given something because they feel as though I'm offering versus asking, right? it's more natural for somebody to give me something if I've given them first. So I treat my first phone call vetting sellers as if I've already had the listing. I go through the whole listing presentation first over the phone, and then meeting them in person just becomes a formality. I've already given them, 4 to 5 touch points prior to actually meeting them. Comps, what's going on in contract, what's falling out of contract, explaining them absorption rate, explaining them what seller's assist means and how it actually reduction that. Like giving them all that information first and doing the legwork. That's valuable. Prior to meeting, you've built this bridge of trust. This bridge of trust is going to help make the journey smooth for signing this contract. And then I'm also a big firm believer in tracking numbers. Right? Command is not great, but Command is really, really good at setting your annual goals. Has anyone ever tried that? So part of those annual goals, you plug in how much you want to make, how many deals you want to do from that, and then it spits out how many contacts. How many contacts do you have to put into your CRM? How many calls or conversations you have to have? How many appointments you have to go on? How many conversions you have to do? How many deals you have to get into that dollar amount of money? So that's actually a really good roadmap because it keeps you in line and organized to say, okay, if I have to talk to 20,000 people in 1 year, I know that I got to make 100 phone calls plus per day. And if I'm not keeping to that schedule, I'm not going to hit that number. But you can guarantee if you keep to that number, you're going to hit that number goal because it's a numbers game, right? So if you just actually follow that ratio, clicks. So I'm a firm believer in saying, okay, you're finding more business from door knocking, do that repeatedly, right? Every week add an extra 5 houses. If it's phone calling, add another 25 extra, right? Because the real secret about it is being better. You want to actually appreciate the fact that you're the competition, you're going to crush it, right? Because if she sells more houses than people, it's more than deals in the contract. If I spend time wasting worrying about what they're doing, that doesn't grow my business. But if I know that I can track my numbers, 100 phone calls gives me 2 appointments and one of them, I double down. If I do 200 phone calls, I'm going to get 2 deals. So keeping track of your numbers in terms of how many appointments you go on, how many conversions you do, that keeps you on the right track. Again, I don't want to be talking to you guys here. Please, interrupt.
Going back to that conversation that you're having, you're giving to the seller.
Yes.
Is that a very good conversation, 60-minute conversation? Like, how are you sending everything? That you're doing?
Yes.
Exactly.
Very much. Everything's situation. So you got to be communicative. Like if you can tell that they don't have a lot of time to talk, to hear something, keep it like 10 minutes or less. But if they are inquisitive and analytical, give them more time. Right? I have found quality of the questions dictate the quality of the conversation. So if you're asking really good questions, people answer those questions, and those answers will crescendo different avenues of the situation. The more you can find out about this person's motivation, what they do, why, they open up. So sometimes my calls are anywhere from 10 to 45. It depends on how much I have time on that moment or how much time they have. And I will take all of my notes, ask them all the, like I ask them everything about the house. How old are your like I'm taking the checklist down of everything about the house so I can become an equal expert on the house as they are. So that when I run my comps, it's not a guess. I can be super close. I'll send the comps that day, right? It is.
Is that email or are you mailing it?
This question. If you ask them, how do you like to be communicated? Next call now, whatever. Right? Let the client dictate what they want because it's make it easy for them.
Are you using any applications for that? Are you using apps to send them? Like, hey, I have an app that will send you the comps. Are you doing an app now? Because I know that's something I've been moving toward recently.
Yeah. I'm not. You need to do it on customer disclaimer. But if they have to do something extra early on in the relationship, it becomes hard to convince them. If I say, hey, download my app, They have to hang up, go to the app store, download it, figure it out. I started to build websites, like, so depending on the sale price and depending on how much effort I want to put out to get that deal, I will either give them a generic CMA that you can easily produce from MLS, or I'll build out like a little micro splash page from Adobe, and I'll just have, you know, my regurgitated marketing strategy, specifics about their property, absorption rate, what the average seller's assist was in that area, the average commission. Because having conversations about commission up front is going to be your decision. Most times, like, well, how much you charge? It's a great question, and I love to answer that. That's usually a conversation like have face to face because I want to show you the value of the offering first. Is that fair? If they say no, then they may be a difficult.
You know what the taxes are
But if
for?
they're like, okay, fine, show me what you got, then I kind of set the tone that like the
That's okay.
conversation
With,
about
with
commission
you know, the property, I can look it up.
we'll figure out the compensation. Right?
Good.
Earn their trust first and talk about it. It's always the easiest way. I will do checking. Check, like part of that 5 to 6 touches is like, hey, how are you? And talk to the realtors yet? Like, you know,
I'll give it that up and get that. Let me talk to Tyree first.
I'll just send them stuff. Like I'll send them like, hey, actually this one is with a contract. This one without a contract.
Absolutely.
Just when you have an educated client, it is that much easier. They're usually don't know much about the industry, and they're going to be kind of resistant. They're like, well, I don't know what this is, so I'm not really sure how. If you give them more information than the other competing realtor, they want to talk to you. Like, they want you to be the authority, right? I tell people to treat listing presentations like they're top. You know, police are technically. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Police are technically there to protect and serve the public servant, but when they come up to your door, they pull you over. They act as if they're the authority in that stop. It's not their stop. It's a conversation. Right? But treat these listing appointments like you are the authority. They called you for a reason. They want to be taken care of. They don't want to do it themselves in their lives. They want to find it. So meet them in the middle of who you are and what their expectations. So phone calls, text, very short phone calls, text, just like different information about what's happening. Just send them stuff about the property. Because one, it educates them, and two, it shows them you're really serious. People like hungry agents. They want to work with somebody who's interested. They work with them. The more times you talk to somebody before you actually meet them, that interaction is so much easier. Like they actually do lower the defenses. You know, ask if they have kids. I bring coloring books to listening presentations. Ask if they have pets. The first thing if they have a pet, I'm playing with them. That pet for most people, it's like an extension of their family. So if they see that I'm like I care about their family, if they're over the age of 50, give them a nice lifelong hug. I cannot tell you how many listings I've won because I've given them hugs. I just signed $1.5 million listing in media. It's like an entire couple selling their property because they're moving to retirement. They interviewed 3 people. The fourth, I was there for over an hour. We talked to them. And I gave this woman the tightest hug for like 30 seconds, and she went from yes. So just like you're not a salesperson. You're like an advisor. You're a guider. You're a financial analyst. You're a therapist. Like you're everything. So the deal always extends beyond just the business transaction.
So when you said you kind of bagged that investor and that it led to 12 more listings, how did you, when you first approached them, how did you figure out what they were looking for? Like, how did you know the criteria to push on them to get them to accept it? And
they had already bought enough property, so they weren't going to purchase, but they were getting closer to finishing. So I just wanted to be in front of them so that they believed my ability to sell that property, i.e., that I'm an expert in the industry. Meaning, I know what's happening with comps. I've already given them an idea of how I'm going to sell the property. Just that upper edge of I want to sell. Like, if you're working with an investor, which everybody should have at least 5 investors in their pocket, keep them busy at all times, because investors are buyers, they're sellers, they're landlords, they're everything. Even in low markets, they are. Anytime you're working with an investor, you have to drill it in your mind, and you need to be aggressive. There's not a single investor that wants some lackadaisical realtor to not remind them or bug them to talk with them. If you're not talking to an investor at least 2 times a week, somebody else is. I am. Okay, I'm going to steal them. Okay. You got to talk to people. You got to let them know, like you can. I'll like the first meeting. I'll say like I care about making money. Because if they feel like I just care about them, then they're a portion of work. The best thing in the world is to have like exclusive relationships and partnerships with different investors because they're just like articulate to them that you understand, especially for out of town investors. I'm going to make this easy. I have vendors, I have expediters, I have architects, I have contract, I have everything that I can refer to so that you can just throw gasoline on this. And I'll be your point person. For construction sites, I always visit construction sites once a week. I'll take pictures with the investors and send it to them because I know that GCs and subs, they just want to be on to the next deal. They want to be on to the next bill. But that's not convenient for the investor because they want to make sure they're on the plans. They want to make sure the corners weren't cut. They want to make sure that things are being done to what buyers want. So the more you embed yourself into the actual construction of something, they want to work with you because they can rely on it, right? It is a lot of hours, but there's a tall tale of, you know, you have to do more than what you're being paid for. So the time you put in the beginning of the relationship compounds.
Would you do any non-exclusive with investors? Had somebody do that.
For selling or for buying? For buying. There's no loyalty. There's you just gotta accept it. But you're only as good as your last deal, so if they're on deal with them, they're probably gonna use you. If they have a deal and let's buy it for somebody else, get started. You want to still capture that resale. Say, hey, I'm already proven, you already know my style for resale. If you need to find a deal because that agent brought it to your market, I want you to get that deal because the numbers work, right? But I love the opportunity to at least even for short-term listing period, let me try to sell that. They're more likely because like nobody wants to deal with the pain in the ass money broker, right? So don't hold on.
I just, I've worked with investors, but I kind of have a love-hate relationship with them because I've come across a lot of people who are investors, but they're not investors, right? So like they've totally wasted my time. And I've learned that, you know, throughout my career, but is there some sort of process that you go through to make sure that they
Look at this, that leads me to my next slide.
Okay, great. Because I'm like, you know, there's people out there who are kicking tires and
So
they're
many
not doing
tires.
anything. Right.
You should be able to vet if they're real or not in person. Legitimately.
Yeah.
This is the checklist that you can basically use to vet these people. So great question. Thank you for the second. So there's a saying like show me your friends, I'll show you your future. It's the same thing. Choose your client, choose your future. So you want to build your own roadmap of your ideal client avatar, right? So there are several things that you can do by building a client profile, determining the geolocation of where you want to do business, specific investment strategy that you want to focus on for that client, and how many deals for that client. So you want to understand if they're buying home. You understand if they're fix and flip. You understand if they're doing a renovation versus a new construction. All these questions that you're either asking the potential client or writing to yourself tells you their experience on paper. It's okay. If these guys are like, hey, we're only doing renovations right now, that tells me that they're probably never into investing. Because everybody starts investment with renovation because it's easier, less, demanding than new construction with a lot of moving parts. It's far more expensive. But the guys who've been doing it for years, guys unlimited who've been doing it for years, they all do new construction because it's way easier. You can build it faster, margins are better, the ARVs are higher. So depending on what type of investment we're do, I know where we're at. And I'll either say, right, do you want to stay in that box or do you want to evolve? If you want to evolve, here's the plan for that. So to avoid tire kickers, you want to understand these exact questions to ask, or you're only going to focus on people that fit that box so that you don't have to waste your time running around, seeing places that doesn't make sense. It's not going to happen. the investment strategy is really important. So I work with more investors and developers than retail buyers. That's why I started a team, because I want to give them any ancillary deals that could come my way. But if you want to work with investors, you got to learn the language of banks and investment. Like, you have to understand how to underwrite deals like a bank would, or understand how to underwrite deals like they would. And you have to understand loan terms, right? So you just being able to say, oh, you're looking for a 6-unit building, well, that's going to be a commercial loan because 5 units or over is commercial. Do you have a commercial lender yet? No? Great, I'll put you in touch with mine. Oh, you're going to sell a property? What are you going to do with the money, right? You want to ask all of the question marks that are kind of blank in the conversation, so you get a full round on it. It's because the longer you work with investors, you'll always hear the term, well, if the numbers work, I'll do it. Has anybody heard that before? Well, what the hell does that mean? What numbers?
Exactly that.
Do you care about cap rates, or do you care about cash flow? Do you care about appreciation? What numbers, right? So always ask, what's your investment strategy? Are you a long-term? Do you want to be in a neighborhood where there's increased appreciation, or do you want something that's cash flow, right? That means you're going to be in a, if you want cash flow, you're going to be in a rougher neighborhood so you can capitalize on a higher cap rate. Or do you want something that's on the fringe, or do you want something that's a more established neighborhood and you're okay with the lower cap rate? It's institutional money. Do you want something that you have to do a value add? Like, these are all questions you got to push these people, majority of the people you talk to in terms of investment, up front. Otherwise, you're just going to be wasting your time. So this is kind of like my go-to checklist of what type of investor do I want to work with, or I use this when I'm talking to an investor for the first time to vet them. You know, it's really important to understand, like, where's their money coming from? Do you have money? If you don't have money, I'm not ready to talk to you yet, because you have to go source your capital so we can do something. Otherwise, I'm not going to show you a property you can't buy. You're going to waste your own. So you have to understand how they're investing. So I like to say, you're going to be financing this through cash. Right? People say cash, great. We've never had the opportunity to work with each other. So in order for me to start trading properties, I need to see proof of funds. It could be a screenshot with your name or entity that's purchasing, or a bank statement, black out your account. If they're unwilling to share that with you, that means they're either timid or they're not real. The real investors who do it all the time, if you ask the right questions, they're vetting you just as much as you're vetting them. So if you've asked the right questions, they're going to be able to sending it to you, right? And if the money's real, then that's your job. So I want to know how you're financing. Meaning, if you're looking for rehabs, they say, okay, well, I want something in the 200 range. 200 range meaning acquisition and construction, or is that just acquisition? How much do you plan to spend for rehab, right? You have to force these people spoon feed you the answer.
Yeah. But if they can't, like you said, if they can't answer those questions, they're not real.
They're not ready to.
I can tell you all my investors can answer that later.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they don't know how to answer these questions, hey, let me put you in touch with the farm money lender. They're going to go over the process of what the expectations are for down payment, not liability, obligation, and here are the loan terms. Like, I'll let somebody else educate, because the lenders that I'll put them in touch with, they will always push them back to me. So somebody else can educate them, but they'll also know that I put them in touch with a legitimate lender, so they feel good about working with me, right? You should do whatever you want, but I only like to refer clients, vendors that I've personally worked with multiple times. Otherwise, it's what's going to happen when they screw them over, and it's a bad reputation. So if you're working with people and they're in the rehab phase, understand how much they want to buy from the house, and understand how much they want to renovate. Right? If their renovation budget is only like 30 grand, well, I'm only going to show you properties that are cosmetic rehabs, not a full rehab. Why are you looking at that? You don't have the capital steps, and you knowing more than them helps them, which helps you. They feel good about working. The whole idea is that you want people to feel good about working. So this is like my go-to client profile that I'll build out, or at least use, so that when I'm embedded. Sourcing deals is like the bloodline of our business, right? When I say deals, I'm talking about listings and buy sales. But there's a lot of ways that you can capture people that can operate. So Absorption rate is really critical because when people fight you on resale prices, you always have to go back to the equivalent. Does everybody know what absorption rate is? Absorption rate is the length of time it would take to sell the remaining inventory the rest of the year. So, for example, if it would take 3 months to sell the remaining inventory in a given zip code, until now, until the end of the year, nothing else can work, correct? So it's a calculation based on what sold last 12 months and what inventory is available.
For a region.
You could get real fine. You could do like a half a mile radius. You could do a specific house type. Usually you do zip code, which is it's a more general number. But if you run into somebody super analytical, like why would it over 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, and an 800 square foot house? Okay, well then you can do it, right?
Right.
Anything above 5 months to 7 months is a fair market value, meaning like you cannot crush your sale price in terms of like listing it too high because it's just going to sit. Anything 7 months above is a buyer's meeting. You got to be real soft on that price, otherwise it's just going to sit. You can use this obviously for any listing, but when you're working with investors, they will push back. They'll push back hard than average homeowner because they know a little bit more than average homeowner. So you have to be equally bearish with that. Facts over feelings is like saying. So I like working with investors because there's a lot less feelings involved, a lot less like emotional driven decisions, but they still are money at the end of the day. So they're like, wow, it took me 3 extra months to build this, so I need to recoup that money. That's not somebody's problem. That's not a buyer's problem. What does the market say? That's how we have the situation. So that's kind of how it works. So the more you know, it's pretty dangerous kind of about investors. That's really so it's one of the disclosure. But the more you know about zoning codes, use codes, construction phases, municipality codes, this just it promotes that you know what you're talking about. And try not to be like, well, I sold this house or I did this kind of deal, right? More questions you should ask. Like, for example, if you're in a rehab and they just demoed everything, say, oh, when's your framing inspection? Right? So in 2 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks, it'll probably take you about a week and a half, 2 weeks to frame it. Right? What's the inspector like? Like, does he take a long time to come to you? Does it take 5 days, 6 days? Like, ask these questions about the timing of everything. Because if you are in a house that was just demoed, you can't look at it and know when it's going to be ready, then you're not the right realtor. Right? Because if I know that it takes 6 months to do a rehab and they're at the installation phase, I know that they're going to do the drywall, doors, trim, flooring, right? Those all take X amount of time. So I can be in a house at any given stage of the construction, spit out when it's going to be ready for the market. So say, oh, in February, when you're 45 days away, I'm going to start to pre-market this house. So they're already like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing because he's ready to start marketing it now, knowing when the house is going to get finished without me having to ask when it's going to finished. So sourcing deals is also just knowing the industry, right? Knowing the specific asset costs.
Get it.
That's also getting like.
I don't want to say getting it.
I like it.
And I'm like,
I hate it. It's just my life was like
I'll sell the properties.
like who am I?
When they're ready, mine.
you're a badass.
So if I'm walking through a construction site,
Thank you.
I know that they have to get a C of O before they can sign leases. So again, 30 days prior to the completion, I'll start to show it. I'll pace people. They're like, hey, in 45 days, we can probably sign the lease and we can move in. So just them knowing that I want to put that energy and effort in, it really helps because they don't care about you, they care about their money. When they're done that project, they want to refi of that so they're not getting crushed on debt service, right? So some banks will require that you have to get that thing at least 90% or 100%. And I want them to know that I'm hitting the ground running to protect their equity. Which is like dealing with there is emotions involved with investors, so like knowing how to speak money to them, that's exposure. This is kind of like a blanket statement, but there's so many platforms out there, and we just choose one or a few that makes sense to do. If you do a lot of multi deals, get permission from the local parties. You can get so much business from doing deals because the more deals that other agents or consumers see on MLS, you're just more of a party in that area. So, for example, there's plenty of investors that have that. And they're constantly seeing. So if they see they pop up more and more and more, okay, well, I have wholesalers always reach out to me, I have agents always reach out to me. Professionals always reach out to me because they've seen stuff that I've either reported on Bloomberg, Press, I'm last. So that's also another form of exposure to shoot.
Say you have a wholesaler that, because I do deals a lot of my deals, a couple of them going on right now. Never put them in the program.
Yeah.
And I properties and things like that I've done. Like the wholesale deals, wholesale. What would you suggest on there? It's like I have probably 2 of them going on right now. Like I'm gonna do the listing on the back end.
So I went into like
I'm not gonna be able to
chat GPT and I was like, how many wholesalers are in Cecil County?
Oh my god.
They will in the beginning. So
Other than those 2 things, which whatever.
Yeah.
I'm working it out for listings. Percentage.
That's one thing where I feel like.
Oh, so you're making out.
Andrea, Harry.
So like my.
You could explain that to any co-broke agent,
Yeah.
because they're gonna be at the hub and be like,
Oh, I've had to explain that. They're like, why are you getting 5%? Only
no,
listings.
I'll tell them that.
Yeah.
Heads up, this week you'll see, he's actually paying back.
She doesn't.
Yeah, that's why I do let them know that because again, they will see it and
Oh,
they'll
it's
ask,
right there.
yeah, they will ask that question. But like after I do staging, I'll have those too. So,
Why am I not getting this?
Hey,
Yeah.
Tony. How are you?
I was trying to get paid on the wholesale side too. They're legit wholesale.
Yeah, some will, but
I would work.
right, because then I work it my client, but besides, it's like so whatever, or probably want to do like $2,000 or something like that. I'm just kind of curious if you were actually, you're always asking for that fee up front.
Easy, but it's doing okay.
Well, this check was on.
And the tip. So once the deal closes, ask if it's cool. Hey, can I list this on MLS for a day? Put it as pending, put it as closer to the report system.
Yeah.
If it's in an area where you think it's going to have a high chance of don't take it, depending on when the construction is finished. Because if you resell a property in less than 6 months, the FHA appraiser is going to require 2 appraisals.
Well, that's one of the reasons why it doesn't.
So it's regional.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that buyer said they were like, you're going to pay for that. Mr. Seller, I'm not going to appraise. It's not my problem. So just it's
Yeah.
like I sold like a 900K multifamily off market with a wholesaler in University City. You know, because another guy, hey, I should get that off market.
Yeah.
Like every deal you do should blossom into a. That's how you should treat your So
I just called him. I literally called a broker yesterday. I saw he did a deal on the street that I listing, and I was like, "You did that deal with FHA, and it's 125-year-old house. How'd you do that?" I literally said,
how much FHA repairs that?
it was over. He said it was just over 7 grand, no repairs. But I wanted to ask the question,
It's a good question.
and and he said it was inside. It was inside the family deal, and it was a nephew that was related to the uncle, and the uncle, the agent that were listening, didn't want to do it. So he reached out to a local broker, and that broker ended up being Philip Myers with Dover. And I talked to him on the phone, and he said,
Yeah,
answer the phone.
Yeah, see, a lot part of this business is like serendipity. You just gotta do the right place, right time.
So if we're not able.
Social. No, but it's still, they're still,
What you okay.
Yeah,
and they only gave us exposure.
yeah.
We're not secret agents, we're real estate agents. Whatever. And then, sorry, going back to presentation. So you have marketing, exposure, and target prospecting. There's a lot of easy, free ways to get business, right? If you don't know who to call, go on public records and organize whatever given area that you want to do business in by name. whoever has 3 or more properties, they're more prone to have an easier conversation about real estate because they already understand real estate is. They may have stuff that they would sell, rent, buy more. Those are way easier conversations to have with someone. 90-year-old woman who's still in her house for 8 years. I mean, that's an easier sell than somebody who owns portfolio.
I was gonna say, it's about that.
I don't.
No, I agree.
Yard sales. People that have sales. So
I did, I don't know.
Ground level commercial spaces are really good. Sometimes those guys are so you either need a tenant or bad building, whatever, like just establish relationships with businesses and probably you can kind of tackle both of the commercial spaces. You guys have tax abatements in Delaware for like new construction?
Like the rate of changes and
Tax abatement.
Well, I know a new construction site in Greenville, they had some.
Oh, yeah.
Was like, I can't sell for 2 years, but he got some kind of ready. But
That's
then
probably
it's like
the one-
official, like. 2 years, like hotels.
It's
Things like that.
Okay.
Let's see.
Skip them. So. Does everybody know what a 1031 exchange is? 1031 exchange is a vehicle where somebody can take their gains, sell of an investment property. I know you can put it towards like placement a certain amount of time after buying that property to defer the capital. So the ordinary income, you have capital. Capital gains comes from sale of something. So if a person owns like a triplex, and they want to sell it because they've done it, they want to not get crossed on the list. They'll buy something that proceeds, roll it into another purchase, and defer their taxes. Right? They get a cash flowing asset, and they owe taxes. Just sell that. That's how generational wealth is built in market. Where families are just keep replacing it. Wonderful trust, pass it on to the next person. They don't have, inheritance tax. It's a whole other story. But 1031 is a question you should always be asking investors. They're telling that we're going to read that. So don't know what it is. So you being able to educate them, like I've done multiple sales with people simply because I was like, hey, you should do a 1031. Right? They have to own for more than 2 years. That's the investment property. They can't be a personal property. They can't move it into the. It can't be a property for the next. So people love saving money.
I can hear it every wall.
So 1031 is just like real easy math. You have 6 months to close a replacement property after you sell that property. Well, the first 45 days after selling the property, you're identifying that stage. So you have to identify 3 properties with 45 days. Give it to your QI, your qualified intermediary, and close on one. You close on one of them, and you're wrong for your capital. You can also chop it up. So it's like, let's say they made 500K. They don't want to
Share with me along.
They spend 100K, but invest the other 4. They're only going to get charged for 100. So it's just a way to keep growing business for the same person. Repeat clients are great because you've already sold it on you and you're not cold. Something's back.
And if you said they have to own it for 2 years.
But they have to be on the contract.
They have to start the identifying phase for the 3 replacement properties starts the day of selling. That's the one they sold.
Yeah. I had a situation where somebody came
Well, but what happens is,
and they went, yeah, and you're qualified for the contract, leader of the contract.
it's really artificial, it's just.
What company was for?
There's plenty of 1031 companies. Working a couple of there's one that actually just started working. The segues are so good. It's so building an ecosystem of different trades and different industries helps promote more business for you too. So one of my connections is like a financial center, right? So I've done enough 1031 exchanges where there's this company called Cap Exchange, and they're out of Florida. Historically, like any institutional money doesn't want to deal with residential. We do the short leases, which is like commercial leases, because it's like guaranteed money. You don't like literally like they open the box. Check. And they built themselves a really interesting niche where they'll approach a property owner that owns a residential portfolio, and they'll package it as like triple net security and guarantee a certain cap rate out. It's not a deal. And then they'll package it together and they'll sell it to a 1031. So they reached out to, like, one of their reps reached out to me because they saw that I just sold 2 buildings, and like, oh, if you have anybody, here are some deals that we have. And I did it, but I had great conversations with them. I asked them a lot of questions. A lot of the conversation, quality of these questions, they overcome the conversation. So I gave them, I showed that I knew what I was talking about because I was asking these questions. So a few weeks ago, they actually reached out and said, hey, we have a portfolio in Pennsylvania, right in the neighborhood. They need to sell their 14 houses because we're packaging it together for one. We are a broker. We're broker Florida. We can't sell it. So we're going back and forth right now to some contracts. So like $2.5 million deal that I didn't have to like work for. They called me, you know? So just record deals as much. So going back to this one, building yourself an ecosystem of lead sources is critical. So the development sector, law, community, portfolio holders, like these are all different people that you can put yourself in contact with in order to generate. Talk to as many people.
I pick up the dog every day.
Kind of a creep, like it's because like I always listen to like real estate. Love this thing. Oh, sorry, he's driving. I heard you talking about whatever. Here's you need a realtor.
You don't mind?
Just from that, you know. My wife is like, you know,
Ali does the same thing. What?
but people responded. Like, and some people were like, no, bored. Just like, you know, it's a numbers. I sold a house to my neighbor. They just talk. It's like, you know, just talk. This is a big one. So the first on my screen, right? If you're not confident in yourself, that previously translates a bit quickly. So be yourself, obviously, at the end of the day, but less movements, smoother movements, eye contact. When you're giving somebody facts,
2 seconds.
do not unwaveringly stumble on what you're saying. Because if you're looking at somebody and you deliver that information, there's just like 5-second pause of like, they're looking at you to see if you flinch. And if you don't flinch, they look away first. So if you're trying to deliver facts to an investor and you're staring them right in the eye, blah, 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 whatever, this is the truth, and they look away first, oh, because they're just checking to make sure you're not bullshit. So eye contact is a huge one. I'm not joking on it. Like, don't sleep on that. Look people where they are. Nice firm handshake, you know. Yeah. Wet fish, that handshake. I know these are all like weird things to say, but it's like so true for like, even though it's an investment kind of thing, you're still like, the expertise again. The expertise is really going to come from you asking questions and people pointing out things without having to be told to ask. So, zoning and objections.
I think he's amazing.
I know.
What are some objections that people have? Anybody? Okay. Meaning that they're not ready to make a decision? So they say we need more time? Just right now. So a good counter to that is, sounds like you need that information. You don't necessarily need more time, but you need more information to feel like they're making a good decision. Because there's nothing I can tell you here today now that would bring you the understanding of information. Right? That's why they brought me in. The other.
Yeah. What do we do with that? But to find something on level.
She had the proceeds to buy the next one. once it's once. I'll say, hey, this is a very true thing. But you want to make it, and it's going to be potential abuse in your house. Homeowners not even accept the offer to do the house listing. Is that listing agent is worth their weight in salt? They're going to look at their house, make sure it's listed. Because if the seller doesn't think the house is going to sell, but the buyer needs the house to sell, they're not even going to. Because you're going to have a home sale potentially probably your contract offer. The alternative is like that. If you have a good lender, it's hard to get secondary, which I can follow. I'd probably do that. So that she feels good about moving to the next one. And where listen, so that's for the lender.
I do want. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, buy it down, a quarter and 3/8, so they can figure out what to say.
People would ask for your elevator pitch. One place you different.
Usually two and a half is usually.
Person, I think, comes in personality.
But you gotta think
There
of
was this
it,
guy
about
in,
400,000.
his name is like 2016. They did an article about him. It was supposed to be a short article, which is so weird. It was an individual agent that sold most of it. Sold $2.2 billion. He represented like all the major builders in the country, so he did nationwide deals. And he sold $2.2 billion with him and his team.
Yep.
It's
Oh,
crazy.
no,
He
that's
said
fine.
two things in partners. Like you,
I've run
that's
But yeah.
so when you're pitching to a client, it's important that you're really promoting.
Yeah, so I'll
It's easy to deal with. I'm not gonna pay an extra, I promise. I make a process. In addition to, I like to say things that most agents I know are not bringing up in the listing appointment is that expert in problem solving and creative solutions. And most importantly, conflict resolution. Right? Every deal, even though the transaction is the same mechanics, you have the element of people and their own agendas that you're dealing with. So telling somebody up front, hey, anybody can list your property, but getting it under contract, keeping it under contract, that's what my job is to make sure that that thing gets in settlement and you get paid. So I specialize in conflict resolution. I can deal with other people's BS without letting my ego get in the way and come up with creative solutions to get them settlement. No, most realtors are just not saying that. I'll do professional videos and do so. You have to explain to them like what you actually do on a day. We're all problem solving, all conflict resolution. So promote that.
I know that one of the things that you read about is like the art of the deal, and the whole like don't give up some of your commission, don't put money into the deal. That's one of the things I actually talk about in my listing is I will not let a deal fall apart for $500. At the end of the day, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars. If there's something that comes up that's a conflict, or it's something that can come to the property, fix it up. I mean, I've literally just renovated a property in order for my client to be able to purchase it over 4 days. Yeah. Yeah. I knew the listing agent. What's that?
Did you put a lien on the house?
Yes, we did. Actually, yes, we did. We drafted up a whole invoice. Sellers signed. Actually, even get the sellers to pay for all the renovations.
Yeah.
So, but that's just something different that I bring to the table. That I will literally pitch to them that I have the ability to do these things. I have the people in place to do these things at a moment's notice. Yeah. So you may be stressing about what may come down the line, but I can literally make a phone call and these issues will go away. Yes, it may have a dollar symbol. Yeah. But I'll get it done. You know, I'll get it done. I won't rest until I get basically what I tell.
He's also a lender.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
One stop shop. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we renovated a property in Lewis just to get that property to closing because on the pending side, the appraiser was like, oh, well, you just can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. And I was like, oh, okay. Made a phone call and was like, hey, I need a guy on the roof right now.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I'll be out there tomorrow. And I was like, nah, that's not going to work. No, we're going to need to fix it. And he was like, oh, so how soon can we do it? I'm like, you can get on there Saturday? And he was like, that's my day off. I'm like, yeah, I kind of need you to do that. So roof got fixed on Saturday, and all the additional renovations inside. We're actually done this. reached
What
out,
else is swinging hammers?
reached out to the agent, told him that I can get it done. And I knew that listing agent, and I
Yeah.
disclosed to him in the very beginning that
Figure it out.
it was possible that this would happen. And was he prepared for that problem? And could he have that conversation with his sellers that even though my client's gonna buy the property, there's a good possibility that appraisal may bring up repairs that need to be done. We can work it out. We'll do the repairs. There just might be $1.
Yeah, that's it.
So we had that early on.
You'll be out of
Earlier, it said always track your numbers. So when I'm trying to sell myself on a listing, there's competition. I'll let people know, like, my average sale price, if we agree on the listing price that makes sense for your house, I'm gonna sell that anywhere between 98 and 100%. That's my average for what I come up with. So you can make promises all you want, but if you can show a case study of what you've done for other numbers, they at least have something substance they can chew on, more so than all. Pricing is always the biggest issue for people that sell the house, obviously. So
Yeah, we
I like
can
how people functions.
Out of the way.
Do you let people have their own control?
I do.
Except when you don't let them feel in control, that's when they get resistant, that's when they get disagree. So all throughout these listing presentations, I'll put my hands up and say, listen, our goal is to sell this house. That means that we have not pricing strategy.
What?
So after I've given it the absorption rate, I'll go over the three pricing strategies that we've tried to do. Aspirational, perceived market, and FAQs. So the aspirational means like, we'll list the top, we'll see if somebody wants to pay that down. The other option is that we can do perceived market value, which means it's not, your house isn't market value until it sells, but we're going off of what the buyer's perception of the market value would be, right? Yeah. Or we could do event-based pricing, which means we're gonna have it so low that we know that it's gonna go into the big. It's like, what's best for you? And then we let them decide and then we give them. It's like an auction. We create like an auction, like knowing that there's gonna be like 5 people who put offers. So if they try to get to the aspirational pricing, I'll go back to their motivation. Okay, you've already moved that stage. If you're gonna list at this house at this price, then the other houses that I've sold in the area, they started this price, but they were on the market 50 more days than you were. 2 months of carrying costs. Are you prepared to pay that extra? Always bring it back to the money, right? Because if the house is empty, that means that somebody's either not living in it or they're not cash flow. There is a pain point in the financial hardship if you're kind of dealing with the market. So bring them back to reality. There's a cost of running the property. I'll go check. I don't even know if I like to set expectations for this. Like you said, you give people like disclaimers and disclosures up front. They know what they're getting, and there's no meeting. You should for the next step. These are situations in which I have in terms of objections, and some of them has to do with commissions, some of them have to do with bad experiences with agents. I like the one about the multiple agents. So always find out if they're talking to other realtors, and just point blank, hey, what do you feel comfortable sharing? The reason I'm asking is because don't you want to sell a house from someone who sold multiple houses?
Sunday night.
So try to ask questions which lead them to say yes. If they agree with you, they're agreeing with you. And then you kind of have this like subconscious psychological effect. They're like, yeah, I agree with you. Right? So if you ask questions that lead them down the path to a yes, and you're agree with you, great. That would be another talk. I would love the opportunity to get their name so I can actually show you who sold it. So I will look up sales in inventory on MLS. You can look it up either by listings or buyers, or listing the buyer side, and then I'll take a screenshot. Take the screenshot of the other agent. And without being unethical, obviously, you can dress it up. Sometimes I'll add active listings, under contract listings, and closings, just to show the amount of volume that. And then I'll just maybe show their closings, just to see that, like, hey, you're a specific area, but not. And if I'm up against a really, really tough agent, I'll use the office. Close them out. So it's kind of like this competitive edge that I also know that most agents aren't asking for the to showcase them. It's like it's almost like a Hail Mary, like, oh, I support that person. So if they feel like, oh, this person's really active versus the other agent, it just gives you like just the official.
You're saying you
There you go, you're talking.
don't sell more than like one of the other agents would, for example, sell 15,000 to the other agent. So that leverage, you say, or your team or something like that.
Wait, and for you, with CCL,
Right.
leverage CCL specifically, and you have Philly numbers and here numbers.
The more little red dots you see on that map, it just plays well for you. So that's not unethical whatsoever. Right. You are part of the brokerage. You're part of them with the team. Right? They're not your sales, they're broker sales. Show them the broker sales. You know? Don't be shy.
Well, we won't do.
Yeah.
Because we are the number one franchise in all of KW.
Show them the dots. So that's a great one. They're not expecting that. I know I'm not offering that same thing. So that's like a secret one.
So can we go back to that real quick? So when you're asking the name of that person, are you coming? How are you replying? Are you doing it at the meeting, showing them like, oh, here's the activity for that person? Or
No,
are
I
you
do
sending them a
follow-up.
summary later?
I'll do follow up.
Okay.
Because I want to have a little bit of time to
Really
research about that other agent before I speak about it. And say, hey, after the meeting, I'll send this. So again, you're saying their expectation of when you're.
Because I didn't know if you were like scrambling and show them or just, hey, this is what we do. You already have your stuff prepared, but then you just have to.
They're not going to tell you who deserves the phone. Once you warm them up, by the end of the presentation, that's when we talk pricing, that's when we talk about conditions. That's when I'll pull that up. Oh, if you are talking with realtors, you should, it's a great idea. Put that up, anybody, obviously, never say they shouldn't talk to somebody, because then you're telling them.
Right.
So give them options.
Yeah.
Are you looking for how to phrase it?
No, I just wanted to know when he was doing that piece.
Because
So ask the question, I'm good.
But at the end of the listing presentation, sorry, I don't mean to jump in. At the end of the listing presentation, I always say, so are you interviewing any other agents? And then you kind of have the license to say, great, who?
Yeah. I'll either ask them midway or this is all situation. You got to fill the room, read the room. But when I ask, I'll ask who they are, but I'll say, no, what did they say that you liked? What did they say that you didn't? What's important to you in a realtor? So whatever they're saying, whatever important to them, I'll agree with them. Yeah, I can do that. Good idea. Or if they say, well, I didn't like that the realtor didn't get back to me. I hear you. There was a National Association of Realtors survey in 2016 by the NRA, and they hit up every single homeowner that sold property. And they asked, would you work with that realtor? The number one reason they said no was because of communication, lack of communication, right? So if they're saying, oh, they took a little bit to get back to the day. You're selling yourself to somebody, all of your attributes, not just one.
When you think about like when I first got started and you were kind of like, what's like a couple of the biggest mistakes way that taught you?
Waiting too long to get back. Seriously. Really rules of business, okay? Mature attitude. This accuracy and timeliness, right? You have to be correct, or at least know where to get the answers to be correct. You have to deliver it. Otherwise, where are you going? When you introduce yourself, people say like, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" What they're really asking is, "What can you do for a living?" If you can give a creative answer, that's a great segue for them because everybody lives somewhere. Yes.
I was gonna say, this happened the other day. I was literally working on the listing, and I was just trying to be focused on that. And I received a phone call from an old friend. I could see the phone was going on, and I had blocked in my time slot to like spend that specific hour to getting this listing done. And sure enough, I said, you know what? I never get mad about potential new business while I'm doing old business. I usually like, I have a contract over it. I consider that old business.
Yeah.
This phone call came from a friend, and literally he was calling me to let me know he was putting his uncle in assisted living, and he needed to sell a house in okay. That's a nice area to know. As is property, it'll probably be like 600,000. So
you're not.
yeah, just answer the phone. I hate to say that. My lady gets mad at me all the time about the timing of my answering the phone. But 9 times out of 10, it's that client's calling me for a reason. If you don't answer, I'm gonna answer. And that's the part you don't want.
Somebody else is gonna answer it.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. So timeliness is this is your homework, right? So this is kind of like your takeaways for what's a good next step in order to leverage the connection.
Like squinting, that's why I keep taking pictures.
I respect you for taking pictures because that's acknowledgement. So I appreciate that. I wanted to talk about a bonus thing too. You know, AI is a major the world we live in today. You can do so much more than just writing your listing descriptions. Seriously, you can amplify your business and impress people more so than just writing a listing descriptions. Okay, all 5 of these things, I do this on a daily basis. But obviously, we can't act as attorneys, but we can still come up with creative language that fits within the law to represent our clients. So it really helps to basically you train AI on how to speak like an attorney, and then it can dress up basic terms that you want to put forward for an offer. So it is cohesive and it fits within the boundaries. Right. So again, I'm not saying you should be an attorney, but we can still come up with contract law which protects and represents our clients. Virtual statement is a good one, right? If you're paying an average of like 20, 25 bucks per photo for a listing, that's like 500 bucks. Okay. That could be tens of thousands of dollars if you're crushing them off listings, which is true. I can literally, with the ChatGPT prompt that you build out, stage a house virtually, right? And it only costs you 20 bucks a month. So it doesn't take a genius to do that math, but you crush it with as many listings as you want and say, hey, as part of our listing package, we virtually stage houses, right? Because everything we do costs money. But if you can reduce your expenses and do more, then you look better. And sellers don't care about what your expenses are, but you look better by saying, oh, for this. Inspector analysis, right? So you can literally upload an inspection report, direct it how you want to, what elements of the inspection report. It'll pull it out, it'll itemize it, it'll put it together, it'll put together an email for you about to the agent. You know, you can also get market rate for repairs, right? So you can really build out a full package for response that looks professional and makes the negotiation on your side easier for the client with AI. Yeah. Podcasts are really good ones. So Notebook LM is a Google app where you can literally upload YouTube videos or articles, or you can come up with a PDF and plug it in, and it will create a podcast of a man and a woman talking. It's scary how real it is. So I use that to educate people on agreements of sales, agency contracts. It's really crazy, right? But they listen to stuff. So depending on the type of client you have, I will throw that to them and they'll listen to it. So it's like an easier sell, whatever the conversation is. ChatGPT just rolled out its speaking applications. So one of them is Zella. That's huge. It's a major hit to like an MLS search, but it's actually a good thing because you had a prompt where I automate FSBO listings that you send to me every single day based on certain houses, type, bedroom counts, price points, and will give me the image number because the owner has to become technical. So I get free lists every single day since my computer from ChatGPT with contracts. Easy. So there's a lot you can do with application. Now Q&A.
Yeah, but I should
If you like the prompts, just follow. Please.
So when you were first starting out and you were trying to figure out, I guess, like your needs, were you going based off of like your area, like where you live, or were you going based off of what clientele you were trying to serve?
The very beginning, probably the first month, I just wanted different. I got a vibe for who that general population was. Try to just cover a really large geographic. You also really want to determine what kind of asset classes. You want to sell regular retail buyers? Do you want to do commercial, investment, wealth, land, luxury, industrial? Like, figure out a niche. I mean, I try to sell everything just because I'm hungry. But if you want to just focus on the niche, focus on a niche that makes sense to you, right? Commercial real estate's way different than residential real estate. Bigger money, but it takes more time to close it. So it just depends on what you want to sell. You know, I would talk to anybody who would talk to me. I would also take any weird deal that somebody else didn't want. I would just do it. Kristen will attest. 99% of my deals are difficult, wacky, weird. It's just the people that we're dealing with are strange. Situations are strange. It's just so fucked.
Yeah.
But it just right? You don't know how to do something, just do it. Because at the end of the situation, that's where you gain the experience. The more experience you have, the more people you can do. So I really suggest that you embrace the weirdness of the deals and just take, right? The easy deals we get paid on, the difficult deals we get in education. So the more we get educated, the better the margin.
Yeah.
Great, great, thank you.
Seriously, if you want to follow us on Instagram and DM us for the prompts and the presentation, the chat GPT. Guys, save yourself hours.
Or you never
Who's there to that?
Hmm?
Who texted you
No. Take a picture of that.
Huh?
Yeah.
When you go in your camera, it'll scan it. And
Oh, yeah, it takes you right to the side. So.
My ops person, like, come on.
Who else is on the team?
My wife, she's my CEO, and then part of the Frank Genzano, partial owner of this office. So he and I go front. But he's the back end, on the front end. Kristen, are the sandwich.
Any VAs or not?
Not at the moment, but I think we should scale up.
It was us
Yeah,
for
this is an
a
OG.
couple years. It was Rich Benzel, then us.
Yeah.
That's fine. Crime agency.
Or three. Four zero.
Oh, this was really good. Thank you.
Okay, good. You tell me. Okay. Any more questions? If not, I really appreciate you guys. Listen.